Hello everyone, and welcome to our channel, Tutor Dollar. In this video, we're here to provide you with valuable information and insights. Whether you're a student, a professional, or simply someone who wants to expand their knowledge, we're here to help. So sit back, relax, and let's dive in.
What is labor economics? Welcome to Crash Course Economics. Today, we'll talk about labor markets, which is a pretty important subject. You probably need a job unless you are independently wealthy or happy to live in your parents' basement. But how do you even get a job? What kind of work should you look for? In many ways, it comes down to supplying a skill that someone else demands. This is Cristiano Ronaldo. He makes about $20 million a year playing soccer or football. Almost everyone would agree that nobody needs that much money. But does he deserve it? How do his employers, the Real Madrid Football Club, explain his high salary? It's true that the market for professional athletes is complicated. But in a way, it comes down to supply and demand. The supply of people with the skills to play soccer at a world-class level is low. And there is a huge demand for world-class soccer players. Ronaldo might be willing to play for just $10 million a year. This is a lot of cash. He could play for as much as $5 million. And if he loved soccer so much, he might even do it for free. Why, then, does he get $20 million? This comes back to that really high demand. When you have a superstar on your team, you sell millions of tickets and merchandise. It could help you win one of the many cups in international football. So Real Madrid thought Ronaldo and his double scissors move were worth $20 million, and Ronaldo agreed. So they have a deal. Almost every labor market is based on the same ideas about how wages are set. Let's go to where the thought is. Jimmy usually buys things when he goes to the mall. He's the buyer. He demands for sunglasses and big pretzels, and the stores supply them to him. But if he wants to work in the pretzel shop at the mall, the roles are switched. Because he does the work, he is now the seller. And the person who owns the pretzel shop becomes the buyer, a person who buys work. Now is the time to talk about wages. Jimmy could ask for $25 an hour for how good he is at making pretzels. But the owner will say that they could hire someone else for much less money. Jimmy could only get $1 an hour from the owner. Jimmy, on the other hand, would say that he could easily make more money at the Froyo shop. In the end, they come to an agreement on a wage that makes everyone better off. The store owner gets some help, and Jimmy gets paid so he can buy even better sunglasses. This is called a voluntary exchange by economists. The supply of labor depends on how many people are qualified to do the job. Jimmy would like to get paid more, but there are a lot of people who can do his job because warming up pretzels doesn't take a lot of skill. And because of this, the wage is not very high. Jimmy isn't going to work for nothing, though. The wage must be enough to make up for his lost free time and the money he could have made doing something else. The demand for workers depends on how much people want to buy what a business sells. This is called derived demand by economists. If people want pretzels more than ever, store owners will want more people who can make pretzels. If other stores need more workers, too, the demand for workers will go up, which will cause wages to go up. The reason why wages are different for different jobs is because of supply and demand. Engineers are in high demand because they make things that people want. And their supply is limited because it's hard to get trained for these jobs. Even though social workers and historians do important work, they don't get paid as much because there aren't as many of them, so demand is relatively low as there are jobs for them, so supply is relatively high. It doesn't take a genius to figure this out. A lot can be explained by supply and demand. But wages in a labor market don't always reach a competitive equilibrium for a number of reasons. Workers are sometimes paid less not because they are less skilled, but because of their race, ethnicity, sex, age, or other factors. This is called wage discrimination. When there is only one company hiring and workers aren't able to move around much, wages might also be unfairly low. When you're the only one hiring, workers have no choice but to take what you offer. Take the NCAA, the group in the US that controls college sports. Many economists say that college athletes who get a lot of attention bring in millions of dollars for their schools. But they have to take a very low wage or a scholarship that pays for their schooling. Now, players in baseball and hockey can go straight to the big leagues. But the NFL won't draft football players until they have been out of high school for 3 years. And NBA teams can't pick basketball players until they're 19. There are times when wages might be higher than market equilibrium. For example, some employers might offer higher than normal wages on their own to keep workers and get them to work harder. This is called efficiency wages by economists. Henry Ford doubled the pay of people who worked on the assembly line in 1914 so they wouldn't look for work elsewhere. And this is still happening now. You might not like your job all the time. But if it gives you a lot more than everyone else, you're less likely to quit. Unions can also cause wages to go up. A union is an organization that looks out for the interests of all its members and works to improve working conditions and pay. They do this by bargaining as a group. Representatives for the workers talk with the bosses and work out deals. And if their demands aren't met, workers go on strike and stop all work. Unions used to be very strong in the US, but since the 1950s, both the number of people in unions and their power have gone down. During their peak, about 1/3 of American workers were part of a labor union. It's more like 1 in 9 these days. And the workers in the public sector, like teachers and firefighters, are the ones whose unions are the biggest. When there is a minimum wage, which is basically a price floor that stops employers from paying less than a certain amount, wages may not be in balance. In the US, less than 3% of workers are affected by the minimum wage. But the Brookings Institution says that if the minimum wage went up, it probably wouldn't just affect this small part of the labor market. It would also make people whose wages are just above the minimum wage earn more. Brookings says that ripple effect could raise the wages of nearly 30% of the working population. The discussion about whether or not there should be a minimum wage and how much that minimum wage should be gets very heated very quickly. Some classical economists say that almost any kind of government interference in free markets is bad. People say that the minimum wage not only causes people to lose their jobs, but it also hurts the people it is supposed to help. This is how they make sense of things. Employers won't hire unskilled workers if there's a minimum wage. Instead, they'll only hire skilled or semi-skilled workers. These economists say that the minimum wage does little or nothing to help people get out of poverty because most unskilled workers don't make even the minimum wage. Classical economists say that labor markets are competitive and clear, but economists who support a minimum wage say that this isn't true in real life. They think that when it comes to negotiating wages, employers have the upper hand and workers don't have much power. I won't tell you what you should think. But look at it this way. If a grocery store didn't have to pay $7.25 an hour and was the only place hiring, they might be able to get each worker to take less than the market rate. From this point of view, minimum wage doesn't hurt competition as much as it fixes a problem with the market. Don't you remember that antitrust laws stop powerful monopolies from raising prices? Economists who support minimum wage laws say that they stop employers from using their power to take advantage of workers. The economists who are against minimum wage laws in every way are losing the policy war. Most places in the world have laws about the minimum wage. And in many of the countries that don't have them, collective bargaining agreements set minimum wages as a matter of fact. But even among economists who agree that there should be some kind of minimum wage, there are different ideas about how high it should be and what effect it might have on the economy. Think about the US. The current minimum wage set by the government is $7.25 an hour. In 2014, 7 Nobel Prize winners and 600 economists signed a letter saying that the minimum wage should be raised to $10.10 an hour. They said that raising the minimum wage might help the economy in a small way. With their new, higher wages, workers would spend more. This would make people want to buy more, which could help create jobs. But when it came to raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour, some of the same economists said no. They say that even if a $15 an hour minimum wage makes sense in a city with a high median income, like Los Angeles or New York, where living costs are high, it could hurt employment in a city or town with a lower median income. If economics were a pure science, we could just put these ideas to the test in a controlled setting. We could see what happens if one state has a much higher minimum wage than its neighbor. That happened in 1992, as it turns out. David Card and Alan Krueger, who are both economists, looked into it. Pennsylvania's minimum wage stayed at $4.25, while New Jersey's went up to $5.25. The economists looked at big fast food chains on the border between the two states and found that workers weren't getting fired. In fact, the number of people working in New Jersey went up. But nothing is set in stone. Studies have also shown that raising the minimum wage does make more people lose their jobs. A recent survey of economists by the University of Chicago found that a small majority think that raising the minimum wage to $9 an hour would make it much harder for poor people to find work. But, and this is where things get interesting, a slim majority also thought the increase would be worth it because the benefits to people who could find jobs at $9 an hour would outweigh the negative effect on overall employment. Not many economists say that raising the minimum wage will get rid of poverty. But some say it could help get rid of poverty. The minimum wage isn't just there by itself. Poverty-fighting policies should also focus on giving people education and skills. The labor market wants people with these skills. Those skills are in short supply and in high demand, so people will pay more for them. So, while you wait for economists to figure out all of this, you might want to learn something new. If you practice your double scissors, you might be able to take Ronaldo's job.
And that's a wrap for today's video. We hope you found it informative and helpful. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more great content. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below.